thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local businesses and local residents on what they love about Flagler County. So today I'm super excited to have my guest, Mike, with us today. Thank you so much for the time, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Macy, thanks for having me on here. This is awesome.
Of course. Well, Mike has been, we've known Mike pretty much the entire time we've been here in Flagler. He's been a super help when it comes to our cars, with our old car and now our new car and all of that really great stuff. So I'm super excited to learn a little bit more about all of this stuff. So I'll let you kind of kick it off and start with what kind of brought you here to Palm Coast, Flagler County, and how's that been for you?
It's actually a really good story. So back when I was in high school, I was part of DECA, which is a business marketing club in high school. I took first place in state competition, and nationals was actually in Orlando, Florida. And so I came out to Orlando and spent a week here. And the first day, so we were, I don't even remember the hotel, but it was I want to say 28-story hotel. I was on the 26th floor. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, watched the sunrise. The weather was perfect. I said, one day I'm moving to Florida. And ever since that day, I always told everybody that one day I'm moving to Florida. And finally, it's been 8 years now. I decided that it was time, and most of it, not all of it, most of it was I was sick of the cold. I'm from Utah. It's got four very perfect seasons. The winters are very cold, and every time winter rolled around, I wanted out. And so finally, one winter, I was like, I'm done with this. And I decided to. So at the time, my wife and I, she was not into moving very far away from family, and Florida is 4,000 miles, and so we had actually talked about this for a little while, and we ended up conceding on moving to California. So I flew out to California and found a house and found a job, and we were ready to move. Well, 3 weeks before we were to move, I was like, you know what? Neither of us really wanted to go to California, and I wasn't feeling very good about it. And I called her up and said, let's go to lunch. And at lunch, I said, we need to move to Florida. And she says, I'm only doing this once. So if we're moving to Florida, let's move to Florida. And like, it was kind of like jokingly, but I was like, if you say it, I'm doing it. So that night I booked a plane ticket and I flew out and I spent a week out here. I drove all up from Clearwater Beach, all the way up I-4, all the way up 95 to Jacksonville. And I looked everywhere in between. And it's kind of funny. Palm Coast was only on the radar because at the current time I was selling. I was in car sales. Well, one of the guys that I worked with, his parents live in Palm Coast, and he's like, "Oh man, everybody's got waterfront property. Like there's water in your backyard." And he was talking about Palm Harbor, and I was like, that sounds so awesome." He showed me pictures and stuff, and so I looked all over Palm Harbor, and I found a place there that I really really liked. And there was, I don't know, probably a dozen and a half places that I looked at, and that was the one that my heart was like set on. And it was just me here. My wife was not here, and she's like, "Well, you just do whatever you think you need to do." So it was the oldest house. It was the most rundown house. It was one of the more expensive ones for rent. But I was like, "This is the one I want," and so I got that place, and we moved to Palm Coast within a matter of 3 weeks from deciding that we were going to move to Florida to actually moving. And I drove across country, so
Oh,
it was great.
wow. That is a great story. Oh my gosh. It
Yeah.
is so interesting to find out how people, like, people who, like me, who have moved out of state, we all have some very, very interesting story about how we find Palm Coast. It's one thing to move, but I feel like we all have that journey of even finding out what Palm Coast is and
Yes.
then moving. It's like if you were in Orlando, it's like, yeah, I've always wanted to move to Orlando, but it's like Palm Coast is like, no, this is how I found out that the exit even existed. So
Yes.
that's really funny. So you've been here about 8 years. I mean in Palm Coast, like that's kind of long here. Everyone
Yes,
is
I
all
agree.
new from up north as I am. And you're right, the cold, I mean, I don't know how different Utah is from Michigan, but it's when it's cold, it's cold. And it's like the type of cold that's you don't even want to get out of your car to go inside the grocery store kind of cold.
No, you don't.
And then it's like, then you're inside the grocery store and then it's so warm and you're like, crap. And then you have to go outside again. It's the whole thing. I've had too many Floridians on recently. They're like, yeah, I've been here all my life. And I'm like, dang. You guys don't know what that's like. It's insane.
Exactly.
Um, so I would love for you to talk a little bit about your business, Mangum Motorsports, and how what inspired you to go into business for yourself? Because you mentioned when you moved here, you were in car sales, and so now you have your own business. What was that change like for you?
So this goes back a little ways. Again, this is back, I don't know, I'm going to say like 2 years out of high school. Cars was always my thing. So I was always in the auto shop in high school, and I always liked cars outside of high school. I, almost everything that I've done as far as, professional wise has been in cars. Um, so I raced cars, not professionally, but amateur racing, and I was actually doing drifting, and one of my buddies. So Mangum Motorsports just kind of happened. I always said one day I'm going to open a shop and it's going to be Mangum Motorsports, and this has been just for forever. Well, the day that I say that was born, my first competition ever. So I drift cars. My first drift competition. My buddy Dane showed up, and he had made me a whole bunch of vinyl banners, stickers, window plaques, handout stickers, all of Mangum Motorsports. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I put a big banner on my car for the race, and it was awesome. I was like, Mangum Motorsports is real. And that was forever ago. And then, through racing and whatever else, the name just kind of stuck around, but I never did anything with it. Um, Starting a business is terrifying, especially when you don't have any money. And I never had any money. I've always made okay money, and I'm just as good as spending it. So it's been something I've had to overcome over the years. But when I moved to Palm Coast, income wasn't quite what I was expecting, specifically in car sales. So I got back into the service side of things. I was running big corporations, and then COVID hit. The company that I was working for made some huge adjustments on their pay plan, and I was making nothing. My income got cut in half. And I decided if I wasn't going to make money, I was going to do it for myself. And so um, I ended up purchasing a little teeny one bay shop from some kid that was using it just for fun. And, um, you know, I didn't have a plan really. I put together a very small business plan. I put together some projections, but I had no idea what actually to expect. And you know where my shop is. I'm nowhere near visibility. I'm way off the beaten path. Nobody knows where I'm at. So I was a little nervous. Um, but I opened up, and not only friends, I don't have any family out here, but members of my church. And then immediately all of my customers that started coming to shop were referring me to other people. And I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. Within 3 months, I made my first expansion. I went from 900 square feet to 2,000 square feet. And then almost exactly a year after that, during the next year, we worked on expanding the shop. I now have 4,000 square feet, and five full-time employees, and it's absolutely amazing. So
Yeah.
this is my dream. I've had this dream since I was a kid.
Oh, that's so, so awesome. I think a really big part of that, your growth and the reason people are able to refer you so well is, you really held that dream close. And then you were kind of willing to treat your customers the best way possible. You want to over deliver to them as much as possible. Like I have my stories, my car battery like giving me so much trouble. And I think it was like what was it? Like a Friday night. It's like 5:30 and my mom just stared
Yep.
at me while I tried to turn on the car and she's like, this is gonna be a problem. I was gonna go to Tampa the next day with this car. And she called you and she's like, hey, can I come in like the next 10 minutes? Like, we'll drive right now. I think there's something wrong with the car. And you're like, yeah, come over. You replaced my battery like right at 6 o'clock, right before you guys were about to leave. And I think that the reason you guys were able to do that, especially during COVID, which is such a volatile time, it's a scary time to do
Yeah.
anything new, but that especially, but you guys have the client first always. And I mean, it shows in the way that you guys handle everything. And that's why you're able to grow so fast. I mean, 4 years, 3.5, that's insane growth.
Well, you're right. I mean, I love the way that I do business. I would not change it for anything. And my clients will tell you the same thing. I mean, that's why, like what you said, that's why we've grown so fast. With automotive, everybody's got a story about how they had a terrible experience doing something with a car repair, right? Um, one of the things I am the most proud of with my business, I've been in business for 3.5 years now. If you pull up my Google page, I have, I don't know the number, but it's close to 120
Wow.
five-star reviews. I have
Wow.
nothing but five-star reviews. I mean, that is absolutely unheard of, and I am
Yeah.
extremely proud of it. I make sure that everybody is pleased when they leave, and I'm not perfect. Absolutely, I'm not perfect. We make mistakes all the time. The
Hmm.
difference is I'm absolutely willing to own up to them and make it better. And if you're not happy when you leave, I've done something wrong. And I don't want to say I've made everybody happy because I absolutely have not, but at least
Sure.
happy enough, you know.
Yeah. No, I
So
think 120 is an insane number. Like sometimes I think on the internet we see these numbers and we just kind of it goes over our heads, right? It's like, oh, that's a big number. Like you get a lot of Instagram likes, you get a lot of Facebook likes, who cares? But when you think about 120 people sitting down and writing a good review on Google of all places, like that's not the first thing I think of when I think about anything to do, right? It's not like, oh,
yes,
I need to put in a good Google review. I never think of those things. But 120 people rushing to go do that is absolutely insane and definitely speaks to your business and the value you guys have and other people see that.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean I have so many good experience. My mom has so many good stories like talking about like I think there was one time there was like some problem with the car and you needed to hold it a little bit longer. So you gave us I think a rental car that weekend.
Oh yeah,
And you didn't have to, but you're like, hey, I think there's something wrong. I need extra time with it. Here's what you can do. So I think that another story that goes to show you really put the customer first. I think it's so awesome, and I'm
yeah.
so glad that I have these stories with you, and I get to know someone as cool as you. Um, well, I would love for you to know. I mean, being in Flagler, Palm Coast for 8+ years, like I said, that's basically veteran status to me. What would you
Sure.
kind of recommend for us newbies, maybe? Places we can go, events, groups, anywhere we can kind of get active in the community, kind of put themselves out there.
You know what? A lot of people think that Palm Coast does not have a lot locally, but
Right.
I tell you what, there is so much here, and it is all, not all, mostly small business owners.
Yes.
There are so many good small businesses. If you want to get into fitness or martial arts, if you want to get into dance, one of my best friends, she opened up a dance studio in Benel, and she is rocking it. Um, all the businesses up and down the beach, they're amazing restaurants. Specifically ethnically diverse restaurants that are incredible. I mean, there is any number of things you can do here, and not to mention there are some companies. I love motorcycles. I've always ridden motorcycles. When I moved to Florida, I had to get a new motorcycle license. Here, you have to take a class to do it. Well, there's a
Nice.
guy. I don't know where he lives, but he travels around doing classes all over the state, and he does one here in Palm Coast. And so there's a lot of things that you can do here in Palm Coast that you wouldn't really think because that kind of small town, there's nothing here kind of thing. Oh, you got to go to Daytona or St. Augustine. No, there's plenty of stuff here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's
yeah,
so like I know Flagler, I mean, pretty much most of the businesses on Flagler Beach that I'm thinking of are all small businesses. And a lot of them,
yep,
like you mentioned, a lot of them host events too. I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like I know like we were at Good Vibes recently, obviously we were at my dad's event, but I know Mike, my Good Vibes, he hosts events all the time. People do classes, they do fitness classes,
oh
they
yes,
do lunch and learns. Like all of these people, they do a lot of things. And I think it's people if they keep their eye out they'll be very surprised at the number of events that they'll almost be like there are too
yep,
many maybe I can't go to all of them. I know that's how I feel like I go to maybe one or like maybe like three events max a month and that's a lot for me and I'm like I don't think I can do more. What more can you ask for? I don't know, but I think there's definitely keeping an eye out is the most important part of that.
agreed. Some of my favorite things. So like uh, Bing's Landing. There's
Oh,
a mountain bike course up there that is absolutely incredible, and there's groups that go up there all the time, and it is at a blast. I really like karaoke too. There's actually a Flagler karaoke group on Facebook, and there is
really?
plenty of places around Palm Coast that do karaoke. I love karaoke. It is so much fun. Like
Yeah.
Woody's Barbecue on 100,
Oh
they do
yeah.
karaoke every week, and it is my favorite place in Palm Coast. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. I know there's karaoke. I know a decent amount of restaurants, especially on Flagler, they do a lot of trivia nights. A
Yeah.
lot of local bands will play, and then they'll also do some other stuff. Like I remember one time I was at the beach, I think like maybe a Wednesday night, and one of the bars was doing a very loud because they were doing on the patio, they were doing a trivia night. And everyone was having a lot of fun and putting in their guesses. And so yeah, it's a lot of stuff. think people are very, very
Yeah.
surprised, but I'm so glad you brought that up. I think it's been a while since I've talked about those, so that's really cool. Yeah, so what's the best way that people can get a hold of you or maybe reach out if they're looking for something that you guys do?
Easiest way, I mean, either get on Facebook or Google. Our number is right on there. You can always email us, but we're very, very easy to get a hold of. My phone number is both, you can call or text it. And so very easy to get a hold of us.
Perfect. I'll make sure I have that information in the description so people can click on that just a little bit easier.
Awesome.
But Mike, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited to get you on the calendar, and this has been a lot of fun. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Macy. I'll talk to you soon.
Of course, thank you to everyone listening. I really appreciate you as well, and I will see you next time. Bye.